Hi there. This is Alec Jeffries, Senior Director of Membership and Registrations for IIBEC. This is the member development at the chapter level presentation. During the next 15 to 20 minutes, I'm going to do a quick overview of what IIBEC's membership looks like, talk a little bit about what I consider the three pillars of membership development, which is development, growth, and retention. These three things are all independent, but absolutely required to have a successful registration and membership program. Membership is the core of our organization. We are a membership organization, and without our fantastic members, we would not be a professional association. So during the next 15, 20 minutes, we'll go through what it looks like at a chapter level for membership development, membership growth, and membership retention. So to start, I want to provide a quick overview of what IIBEC membership looks like as a whole. As a chapter leader and from a chapter perspective, it's important that we have a thriving membership base because our association is structured that if you are an IIBEC member, dues paying member, you also gain access to local affiliated chapters. And of course, local affiliated chapters can make the decision to or not to charge a chapter fee in addition to the IIBEC membership fee, but that is of course a decision for the local chapter. This screen here shows that on average, IIBEC has been experiencing 3 to 4% annual growth for our membership. With an unusual pandemic year, we're expecting our membership to be relatively flat, but not lose members. And right now we're hovering right around 3,550 members. This depends on the time of year that the membership is reviewed and when our billing cycles are, but our membership has been growing strong, and we've really been very grateful to have a very loyal and long-standing membership base that have contributed greatly to our organization. So thank you all as chapter leaders, as IIBEC members. Without you all, we wouldn't be the professional membership organization that we are. To look at the pie chart here a little bit, our core and focus of our membership is obviously our consultant, building and closure consultant members. And this makes up the largest member classification of our organization at 51% currently. Our next biggest membership group is our industry members. This oftentimes is focused on contractors, manufacturing individuals, folks that are product sales reps. Those individuals fall under the industry membership category. Our consultant members are engineers, architects, building enclosure consultants, folks that work for design firms or other consulting focused professional groups. And you can see here our professional types, the numbers, percentage of the organization. Again, this is a snapshot, it changes, but I wanted to provide everyone with kind of an update with where we are as an organization for professional membership. As you can see, IIBEC has grown substantially over the past decade or so. We are in unusual times, to say the least, so it's expected that we're not going to continue to see a sharp trajectory to the moon, but I'm confident our membership will stay strong. We might stumble a little bit during the next couple months, a reflection of the economics of a pandemic, but we will bounce back. Already towards the end of 2020, we're starting to see strong indications that our members are starting to return to more normal business environment, which is also helping to keep their membership current. And IIBEC is also starting to see more of our members engaging with technical education, looking forward to our big annual convention and trade show in 2021 and our other events. So recap, the past decade has seen about a 3 to 4% annual increase in membership growth. This is really a testament to our volunteers, you all chapter leaders, because without our grassroots organizations and our affiliated chapters, our members wouldn't experience the same value that they have. And it's really the value that brings both new members to our organization and keeps our existing members renewing each and every year. I'm delighted to report that we continue to have very high retention rates in our members, particularly our core consultant members. For an association like ours, we experience about, on average, 87% of our members renew every year. And for other associations, they're happy to be maybe 75, 80%. So we're above the industry trend when it comes to professional members renewing each year. So from a chapter perspective, it's important to know where your members are located. Chapters have different geographic boundaries, but regardless of whether you are a statewide chapter, a region-wide chapter, or a major metropolitan chapter, it's good to know where your members are located. So here is a heat map showing where IIBEC members are located. Traditionally, the East Coast of the United States in North America have been our largest areas for IIBEC members and most concentrated. This heat map shows the concentration of IIBEC members. So it's not surprising that cities like Atlanta, the Northeast, Chicago, Toronto have very large, highly concentrated members and IIBEC members. And oftentimes when our team is looking to identify where a new chapter or branch should be created, we use a map like this to say, oh, there's a emerging group of new IIBEC members in a city that's not currently served by a chapter. Maybe we should consider reaching out and creating a chapter. So knowing where our IIBEC members are located is very, very important. Using this data to structure chapters and to host events is also very important. And right now, IIBEC staff provides monthly rosters, member rosters to chapter leaders. If you ever need additional information or are curious about member demographics or member numbers and locations, you're always welcome to reach out. We have a very robust member database where we can pull information, and if it's for chapter business or for chapter planning, then we're happy to share that data. So Region 1 and Region 2, East Coast, are traditionally where we've seen the largest growth in new members, although Region 5 in the West Coast has also been seeing quite a bit of growth. Region 2 is our largest region from a membership standpoint, and Region 1 follows, and again, Region 5 is also right on the heels. Region 4, Texas, also has a substantial number of members. California is our largest state with almost 400 or 500 active members in that state alone. Texas has several hundred members, Florida. So depending on the chapter and where you're located, some chapters have a lot of IIBEC members in their region. Other chapters maybe have less, but very passionate IIBEC members. So really the formula of how you reach out to members should start with knowing who's in your backyard. And the member roster that's provided every month is very useful data. We also provide a list of new members, and we certainly encourage chapter leaders to reach out to those new members, make them feel welcome, and get them engaged with the chapter. So here's another map. This is a plot map as opposed to a heat map, and the plot map shows zip codes where there are active members. So each red dot represents a zip code that has an active IIBEC member. So chapter leaders need to know who's in their backyard, but also what local attractions does your chapter have that perhaps other chapters or other regions of the United States aren't able to offer. And we certainly encourage chapters to play to your strengths. So if you're the New England chapter and you have a big lobster feast every year, that's playing to your strength and highly encouraged and welcomed. One thing to note is that IIBEC members have access to all local affiliated chapters. So if an IIBEC member is lives in Atlanta, but is traveling to Denver for work, or maybe is posted to Denver for a couple months, they are welcome to engage with that Colorado chapter and attend their events. even if that's not their home base chapter. Creating an influential chapter requires engaging new volunteers, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second, but local organizations are also very important to engage. A lot of chapters have had success with engaging local universities and local civic organizations, partnering with them either for fundraising activities for nonprofits or on a technical level, partnering with a university to host education programs. Sharing resources is really important. And when you have an academic institution or a civic institution that can share meeting space or technical experts in a certain field, it's great to create that common bond, start the conversation, and work together. And lastly, word of mouth is so strong. If you work in a large office, I always encourage IIBEC members to bring their colleagues and friends to the next chapter meeting. This is kind of a no-brainer, but oftentimes people as an IIBEC member, they don't always engage the folks closest to them, and they think that they need to engage people at another company or another organization. Sometimes those surrounding you are your best first point of contact for bringing them to the local chapter and finding that new volunteer. So if you're mentoring someone in your office, if you have a colleague that's new to the office, encourage them and invite them to the next chapter program. They might be that next superstar chapter volunteer. All right, chapter development. So how do we develop a strong chapter? I always say it starts with maintaining a game plan and having clear expectations. And that starts with data and knowing who the IIBEC members are and what value and things that those individuals look for in their local chapter. And this might be different depending on the size of your chapter and your geographic location. So surveying local chapter members is a great idea. It creates a conversation with those individuals. And a couple reminders, it's always important that when IIBEC affiliated chapters are reaching out to the members in their area, that they clearly identify the communication as chapter communication, not coming from IIBEC headquarters. Sometimes members that aren't engaged on a regular level, they can get a little confused whether this is the local chapter reaching out to them or whether it's IIBEC headquarters reaching out to them. So just take a little bit of time to explain who you are as a chapter volunteer, who you're representing, and we obviously want our IIBEC affiliated chapters to have a robust and engaged membership group around them. So we want you to reach out to everyone and anyone that's in the industry and that's an active member close to your chapter. It's also important to note that IIBEC has annual membership dues, you all know that, but some chapters also have chapter dues, and it's important to clarify the difference. All IIBEC members must pay IIBEC dues, and as part of your dues, you receive member benefits and services, including access to affiliated chapters. And we really want the local affiliated chapters to make the decision of what's best for you and your membership group, whether you do a la carte payment system of if you're coming to a lunch and learn, then you just pay for that event, or if it makes more sense to pay an annual fee to the local chapter in addition to the annual IIBEC membership dues. Really, that's up to the chapter, and we kind of leave it up to you all to decide how best to handle that. And sharing information is so important, and this is something that I can't emphasize enough. IIBEC, we share our member rosters and our new members with chapter leaders every month, but we also want chapter leaders to share with IIBEC headquarters what successes they're seeing, what failures they're seeing, what are they hearing from chapter members, what benefits or value are more important than others. Transferring this information and sharing it is really important for us as an organization because it allows us to reallocate resources if needed. So if we're hearing all of the chapters saying we need X, Y, Z, well, we can figure out how do we get the chapters those new resources. Or if members are going to chapter events and saying that they really enjoyed a certain course, that course might be a great course to take on the road or share with another chapter to host. So sharing communication, sharing data, very important. If you have a successful chapter meeting, or if you don't have a successful chapter meeting, we want to know why, and we want to know who attended so we can help reinforce and support you all as chapter volunteers. We know the strength of our chapters is really on the shoulders of volunteers. You all have full-time jobs and are super busy as it is. So we want to use data and metrics to be able to learn from our mistakes and share that across the board with our other affiliated chapters. And collaborating with peer organizations, sharing resources, these things are important because our chapters are volunteer-led. We are a nonprofit organization, so when we can collaborate with like-minded organizations, like-minded chapters, then we really see a win-win. We attract and engage their audience, they engage our audience, and we see a lot of good collaboration that way. So flow of information, I've talked about this a little bit. Each month, IIBEC staff provides chapter leaders an email that has the member roster, an updated member roster, as well as list of IIBEC new members. And the chapters hopefully use that information to reach out to their community, to engage their members on a local level, and to encourage them to attend events. Obviously, chapters can have lists and member contact information and organize that information however you like. We encourage chapters to reach out to non-members in your community, but we also ask that you transfer that information back to headquarters so we can get that non-member that maybe attended a chapter event and put them in our database so we can get them on the email list of next time there's a program or an event in their area. So transfer of information is very, very important. IIBEC sends it out to chapter volunteers. Chapter volunteers use that information to engage their local communities, perhaps increasing that list and increasing their connections and network, and then sharing that information back with IIBEC headquarters is very important. Bottom line, we're here to help. The more information, the better we can share. If there's things that you need from us, please reach out. If there's information that you discover or a new company that's on the scene in your town and you think that company would be great to host a golf tournament, then share that information. It's valuable from us, and sharing information goes both ways, and we want to share more with you all, and we expect to receive information and grow our member database and non-member list as well. So the three pillars, what I consider for membership growth and development, are really to attract new members and engage those members, and then convert those members to volunteers, folks that take time out of their busy schedules to help promote the chapter. And here's some bullet points for attracting, engaging, and converting. But at the beginning, you've got to lure someone into the chapter. Maybe that's through technical education. Maybe that's through a meet and greet. Maybe it's social, maybe it's networking. There's a lot of different motivations for people to attend a chapter event, and it's important to know who your members are and what motivates them to come to a chapter event. If you have a monthly luncheon and everyone loves the food, that's a great motivation. Keep that up. But you've got to have something to attract them to that initial meeting. So knowing what your resources are and how best to attract people, that's a good thing. I also encourage surveying your members, so they may give you some honest feedback that technical education wasn't really appropriate for my group, but I really enjoyed the venue. Great information to know. Surveying, asking people for feedback is always important for enhancing the benefits and services that a chapter and IIBEC from an organization standpoint provides. Engaging your members, not just once a year when it's time to pay dues, but regularly. Ask them how they're doing. Ask them what opportunities they'd like to see. If there's benefits and services that they aren't currently receiving, either from a IIBEC organizational standpoint or from a local chapter standpoint, it's important to ask those questions and be honest. We want to, as an organization, we strive to be nimble in that if we have a large membership demographic that wants to see something, then we want to take action and accommodate them as best as possible. We are not such a large organization that we are stuck in our ways and we refuse to change. We are a industry that has a lot of different technical experts and a lot of different subfields within the construction industry, and that makes us have education programs that are roofing focused, wall focused, waterproofing focused. We have new building enclosure commissioning focus education and certification that'll be coming out soon. So there's a lot of different opportunity, and knowing who's in your backyard is really important for creating, attracting, and engaging members. And lastly, convert them. Once they come to a few chapter events, don't be afraid to ask them to serve on a chapter committee, to stand up and volunteer, to take a responsibility. And so we've obviously all talked and learned a little bit about chapter leadership burnout and how do we prevent that. But it's important that we convert our regular attendees to taking on a little bit of ownership of that local chapter. And what we've seen is our dedicated members and volunteers really benefit quite a bit, both professionally and personally, from taking on a little chapter responsibility. It might boost their sales, it might boost their business management skills, it might boost their professional network or new friend circle. And those are all benefits that we obviously want to share with our dedicated and loyal members and those that may serve in a leadership capacity for local chapters. All right, growth. And growth for me is really recruiting and retaining members. And you can bring in new members all day long, but if you're not keeping those retention levels up, then it's just an evolving door and they're leaving after a year or two. So growth for me really focuses on retention and how do you keep a member that's maybe new to the organization or a member that's been with IIBEC, formerly RCI, for 30 plus years. How do you keep them renewing every year and seeing the value? And part of that is listening to our members, providing surveys and opportunities for them to voice their opinions and desires from a professional organization standpoint, leadership opportunities, committees. These are all things that encourage people to stick around and to have a little buy-in of a professional organization. And at the end of the day, a rising tide raises all ships. So as the professional standing and awareness throughout the industry and the larger construction industry increases, and people recognize that building enclosure consultants and the and kind of the other communities surrounding them are a strong and important aspect of the construction industry, well, that's good for all of us. And so it's important that we have members that are engaging, that are growing our organization. We've always said for chapter leaders that having goals and achievements is really how you start. And the annual leadership, the annual program for having chapter leaders submit all of their information is really important, because without that chapter awards program, it's difficult to document year in and year out the accomplishments and track progress of a chapter, because volunteers may retire, may pass the baton, but having that annual chapter awards program is really important. That application where we ask the chapters to fill out their finances, their programs, there's a point system. We try to recognize chapters for as much that they put into this program. All of those things are very important, and then we can keep track of chapter growth and success over the years. Word of mouth is so important, both from a local standpoint as well as a national and organizational growth standpoint. And when we survey our members from an international standpoint, and we ask new members, how did you hear about IIBEC? Oftentimes it's word of mouth. They had a colleague that is maybe getting ready to retire, and the new member is maybe an emerging professional or someone new to the company, and their colleague said, hey, you should check out IIBEC. Or a new employee says, I need a little bit more technical knowledge in a certain area. Who do I go to? And word of mouth, a colleague perhaps says, oh, you should check out IIBEC. They've got a great online education program that covers that. So word of mouth is important. So growth structure. I think this photo is a good analogy of how we want to structure chapter volunteers. We want a good support base of chapter volunteers, so we don't have one or two people shouldering all of the burden. And it should really be a pyramid approach where you have a president and a chapter board, but you have a lot of chapter volunteers that have very specific and identified responsibilities within the chapter. So spread the workload. We want to prevent burnout as much as possible, and try to identify new chapter volunteers when possible. And to wrap up this presentation, retention is so important. IIBEC has traditionally had around 87% on average retention. 2020, I think, is going to be a little lower just because of the pandemic and unusual business climate. But membership retention is really important. And how do you retain members? You have to encourage involvement, communicate proactively. We need to know who our members are and segment them. That's how we create benefits and services that are appropriate for our membership base. And the membership changes as the years chug on with a professional association. There might be new or different methods for our members to consume information. So 87% is usually kind of the target of what IIBEC as a IIBEC headquarters looks for membership retention each year. We want to make sure we have clear expectations, so when a new member joins, they know exactly what IIBEC will offer, and we want to continue to grow and enhance our member benefits and services. This year and in the past 6 to 8 months in particular, we've been putting a lot of our member benefits and services virtual, which is kind of responding to the times, but also very important from a retention standpoint because we want our members to stick with us regardless of what business climate's out there. That concludes the membership development at a chapter level presentation. Please reach out to IIBEC staff if you have any questions or would like further information. Thank you.